Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stocker Team, the Investors Channel. On this episode, I'll quickly talk about the most reported IPO, perhaps in 2025, which is likely to actually happen towards the end of 2026, which is SpaceX IPO. Yes, you heard me right. The space satellite rocket reusable rocket company, championed by Elon Musk, has now been rumored or reported to be going on IPO. So I'll make it very quick. On this episode, I will just talk about what exactly we know about the IPO, and more importantly, I will talk about three scenarios that might actually play out on SpaceX, or whether SpaceX will go on IPO. What exactly should you be expecting as an investor or as a trader? How should you actually react or even play in this IPO? And of course, if you like this video, give this video a thumbs up, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, put it on the notification bell so that you don't miss the next episode. And this episode is proudly brought to you by StockerTeam.com, the platform for retail investors to actually get insight, guidance, coaching, and how to build a responsible and reliable or even long-term portfolio. Let's get into it. So basically, what exactly do we know about this SpaceX IPO? SpaceX has now been reported to be aiming for this IPO perhaps in the second half of 2026. This media report is actually suggesting that the company has told its investors and financial institution that it plans to actually do this IPO towards around that middle of 2026. The valuation for this business has now been put at an estimated of about $800 billion in valuation. Of course, this is a private market valuation, which is typically and very, very much different from a public market valuation, which we've talked about several times. Well, private market valuation doesn't necessarily take into account so many due diligence and so many things that a public investor will actually look at. But that's a discussion for another day. So between 750 to 800 billion, SpaceX is now being valued at that point, at that price point, assuming that the price per share is above $400 per share in the private market, which, if you actually look at a few years ago, SpaceX was actually valued at about 400 billion. So jumping to about 800 billion, or in the near mark of 800 billion, is actually very, very interesting, incredible, and perhaps puzzling. But that's private market for you. Also, the IPO is likely to actually cover the entire company. So SpaceX is not just into reusable rockets that actually launch satellites in space. SpaceX also has a business unit that is quite vibrant, which is Starlink. Starlink provides satellite internet across different parts of the world, exactly, and more especially a lot of countries who don't necessarily have good broadband cable powered internet. So SpaceX, like places like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, even across the North American market, SpaceX is now really, really making inroads into that business, and the business is quite growing very, very aggressively. Even a whole lot of companies who actually doing off-grid operation in the oil sector, aviation sector. Many of these companies now actually are, customers of Starlink, which means Starlink is already also generating so much money for SpaceX. So the IPO is likely to actually cover the entire business, including Starlink. Another thing is SpaceX has not necessarily, announced this officially, but based on the information, this IPO could actually shift a whole lot of things for this company. A lot of insiders who have invested in this company, the likes of Google, Fidelity Investments, including Elon Musk himself, they might actually be looking to see how they can take out some money using this IPO if it actually happens next year. Now, the most important part of my discussion on this IPO, it's not just the IPO is popular everywhere and everybody should be excited, but as a retail investor, as an investor, or even as a trader, if you may, what should you be expecting from SpaceX, or what kind of scenario are we likely to see SpaceX as a public company if this actually happened in 2026? So the first scenario I'll actually look at is number one, SpaceX, executing one of the biggest IPO in the history of mankind, which is SpaceX actually listing the entire company, not just Starlink alone, but SpaceX operations, SpaceX space operation, to NASA, to several other U.S. Space and rocket operations and businesses, and even the telecom industry. So if SpaceX actually goes about launching or listing the entire company, that will actually be a big business. At the end of the day, it is likely that if SpaceX goes through this route, the valuation perhaps might be actually be between 750 to 800 billion. Is that too much? Not necessarily. It depends on how you look at it. Has this ever been done before? A company listing with close to almost $1 trillion in valuation. It has never happened before. So if this happens, that will actually value SpaceX between 750 to 850 billion. The shares that might be floated majorly will be about 5% of the total shares outstanding, and that could actually raise SpaceX to the tune of about 35 to 45 billion dollars mark if they actually list the entire business, which is about 5% of the float that is always expected for large tech companies. And investors might actually be investing into two core businesses, which is the launching services and the Starlink internet business. Actually, however, as an investor, there are still risks that actually linked to this if this scenario actually plays out. Number one, this is a very, very extremely aggressive, unprecedented valuation, and that will actually make this stock to go into the stratosphere, to go into the moon when this IPO actually launches. But don't get too excited. That might actually be perhaps not necessarily a recipe for disaster, but a recipe for something you don't necessarily expect to happen. Because when early investors actually participate in an IPO, they have about 3 months or 90 days or a few months after that to actually be able to sell their shares. Many of these stocks will actually come down, back down, or even almost losing more than 60 to 70% of their valuation. So if SpaceX is going at this route, we see the IPO going into the sky and actually coming right back down, and that will actually make a whole lot of investors, retail investors, losing money. So you don't want to jump on this IPO when this is the tape. Also, regulatory pressure is going to now come into the into play. A whole lot of things that SpaceX gets away with, not necessarily doing anything wrong, but there's just more regulatory scrutiny. Market volatility in tech, in aerospace, in AI. Many of these will actually also bear, some influence on SpaceX. Second scenario is SpaceX not listing the entire business or the two core business, which is the launching and the Starlink. The second scenario is SpaceX just listing Starlink as a spin-off from SpaceX. And that's because CEO of SpaceX, Elon Musk, has actually hinted in a few years ago that Starlink might actually list separately as an IPO business on its own once the cash flow of the business is more predictable. Even this idea has been fully, even when he hasn't fully confirmed this idea, there are a whole lot of reports, surrounding this, how this might play out. So, he might not necessarily want to list SpaceX as a business itself because a whole lot of control, a whole lot of perhaps maybe strategy that is still linked to how he wants to run the business. He doesn't want to give out the reins. So he might be listing just Starlink going on its own, and that might actually be a valuation between maybe about 100 to 150 billion, which is quite significantly low compared to 750 to 850 billion valuation. Also, investors, if investors are actually participating in this, SpaceX will actually be listing this business that is not necessarily too strong, that is not necessarily showing a whole lot of cash flow, even very promising. And on that note, I'll pause on this to actually talk about Stocker Team and how Stocker Team actually work with investors. So if you are a retail investor and you're actually looking to build a long-term portfolio, you actually want to have coaching guidance, and now you can actually build a portfolio. And that's why this video is proudly brought to you by StockAdmin.com, the website for retail investors to get insights. You can see the news on SpaceX has already been published. We also have, more importantly, daily brief, where you can get much more insight, guidance, coaching, stock picks, a whole lot of other insights that you can actually use to build your portfolio. So check out StockAdmin.com today and choose one of our membership plans. And you can also reach out to us on the WhatsApp and number as well. Now let's jump back into the video. So that's exactly what the second scenario rather is about. SpaceX just listing Starlink, and that could actually make SpaceX to remain private, and Starlink being a telecom business, it's going to be competing with the legacy telecom companies from AT&T to T-Mobile, and even across different markets, even in African market with the likes of MTN, in the Indian market with the likes of Bharti Airtel and all that. So that's a different ballgame entirely, and the main risk for this is that the excitement might not necessarily be as huge as what most people will actually expect, and that could actually mean SpaceX not necessarily being a public company for several years to come. The third scenario I will quickly want to push ahead with is SpaceX might actually delay this IPO. It might not necessarily happen, and this company might actually remain private for longer or indefinitely. Elon Musk himself has publicly denied, certain valuation. Even some of the valuation I've mentioned, sometimes it doesn't necessarily. It says the company is doing very well, but it doesn't want to actually make any comment, which is very much expected. And SpaceX has successfully raised billions privately, using secondary shares. They've raised money from the likes of Google, Fidelity Investments. So they have so much money, they could actually remain private for a long time, and investors shouldn't necessarily believe or expect this IPO to actually be actually done entirely. So in all indication, this IPO might actually happen. And why? Because SpaceX has remained private for too long. This is actually my own opinion. This company has remained private for too long. This company is now generating so much cash flow, especially Starlink. SpaceX itself generates huge cash flow from government contracts, from private entities that they deal with, and I actually feel that scenario one might actually play out. A whole lot of early investors in SpaceX have invested for too long. They've been there, done that. This business has been funded by them and so many other people coming into the business. So there is a time when early investors just want to cash out. They want to do something else, or they just want to make sure they are not committing capital for too long without actually being able to have some positive reckoning. So I actually feel this IPO will be happening, maybe not next year or late next year, but this IPO now looks more like a done deal that could actually happen. So that's exactly what we have for you. Do you actually agree with any of these three scenarios. Number one, SpaceX launching a full-scale IPO, maybe to the tune of $750 to $850 billion, or SpaceX just listing. Scenario two, SpaceX just listing Starlink as a business, as a standalone, which could actually mean, Starlink might be valued between 100 to 150 billion. Or SpaceX scenario three, not even launching this IPO at all. What do you expect? Also, do you actually want to participate in this IPO at a full scale at the beginning, or you want to wait it out and see how the valuation will actually be rationalized and be brought to actual more reasonable valuation? Let's see what you think. Thank you so much on this episode. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye bye.